As a
Humans
joke,
have
the fox girl
tails?
sat on him. Humans have tails. She said in shocked, "Do subscribe, let's go." The young man lived in a small, quiet town where most people knew each other. He was an ordinary person in almost every way. He had a modest apartment. Above a small bakery, where the smell of fresh bread and sweet pastries always made the air feel warm and welcoming. He liked the calm of his life, the steady rhythm of work and home, and the quiet evenings when he could read or think without interruption. Most people thought he was shy, and he did not argue. He preferred to observe life from a distance rather than being the center of attention. But there was something about him that made people feel he was kind, though quiet. He would help someone carry groceries or hold the door open with a polite smile, and though he rarely spoke much, his actions spoke louder than words. One morning, he went to the park as he usually did, carrying a small notebook and a pen. He liked to sit under a big oak tree and write observations about people or nature. He liked to watch how the wind moved the branches or how birds talked to each other without words. That day, the sun was warm, and the sky was a soft blue. He opened his notebook and began writing when he noticed something unusual. A figure was moving across the grass in a strange, playful way. At first he thought it was a child. But as the figure came closer, he realized it was no ordinary child. It was a girl, but not like any human girl he had seen before. Her ears were pointed and covered in soft orange fur. Her hair was long and wild, with streaks of red, gold, and white. Her eyes were bright, almost too large, and they sparkled with curiosity. And her tail-long, bushy tail swished behind her as she moved, reacting to her every emotion. She looked like she had stepped out of a storybook. The young man froze, unsure of how to react. Most people would have run or screamed, but he only blinked, trying to understand what he was seeing. The girl noticed him too, and tilted her head, her ears twitching in curiosity. "Hello?" she said, in a voice that was cheerful and full of mischief. "Are you watching me?" The young man shook his head. I was just... I like to watch nature," he said slowly, feeling awkward. "I didn't mean to." The girl laughed, a sound like a gentle bell ringing in the air. "Nature, huh? Suppose I am nature, in a way," she teased, swishing her tail behind her. She sat on the grass near him, not too close, but not far either. She looked around as if the park was a new world she was discovering for the first time. Over the next few minutes, the young man tried to gather his courage. You are not from here, are you?" he asked carefully. He did not want to offend her, but he had to understand. The fox girl giggled. "No, I suppose I am not," she said, shrugging. "I am trying to learn about humans. You seem different. Calm, ordinary, safe." He smiled weakly, unsure what she meant. "Ordinary is good," he said softly. "Sometimes ordinary is enough." She tilted her head, thinking, maybe. "But ordinary is boring. Humans are strange, but interesting. No, I like to watch them. That is why I'm here." And so, their unusual friendship began. The young man found himself talking to her in ways he never talked to anyone else. She asked questions about everything, how people live, why they do what they do, how they feel. She laughed at things he would never have imagined funny, and she sometimes said strange things that made him think deeply about life. She was bold, fearless, and curious, unlike anyone he had ever met. Days turned into weeks, and the fox girl began to visit him regularly. Sometimes she would watch him from a distance, and other times she would sit next to him and talk. She loved to tease him, but gently. She would mimic his expressions, copy the way he held his pen, or even poke fun at his cautious nature. At first, he felt embarrassed, but over time, he realized she did not mean harm. Her teasing was her way of connecting, of making him feel less alone. One afternoon, they were sitting on a bench by the pond. The young man was feeding some ducks. With breadcrumbs, and the fox girl sat beside him, tails swishing happily. She watched the ducks dive and quack, laughing at their noisy chatter. "Why do they make so much noise?" she asked, clearly confused. "They are communicating," he explained. "They talk to each other in their own way. That is how they survive and find food." "Huh. Humans are not so loud," she said, flicking a strand of hair from her face. "But you humans have your own ways, I suppose. quiet, subtle, hidden? He nodded, smiling faintly. Sometimes quiet is safer. Sometimes loud is unnecessary. I like watching, but I rarely speak unless I must. She turned to him suddenly, her bright eyes twinkling. You are boring sometimes, she said teasingly, but in a good way. I like it. You are predictable, safe, interesting. He laughed quietly, unsure how to respond. He had never had anyone say such things to him. It felt strange, but warm. Over time, their friendship grew into a strange, careful routine. She would ask questions, and he would answer. She would make jokes, and he would try to laugh. They explored the town together, small shops, the bakery where he worked, quiet streets, and hidden parks. She loved learning about human life, even if she often misunderstood it. He found himself enjoying her company more than he expected. One evening, they sat on the rooftop of his apartment building. The sky was orange and pink, and the city below looked peaceful. She leaned on her hands, watching the clouds drift slowly. Humans have rules for everything, she said thoughtfully. And yet sometimes you break them quietly, and nobody notices. Strange. That is life, he said softly. Sometimes we follow rules. Sometimes we bend them. Sometimes we must hide things to survive, or to feel safe. She nodded, seemingly deep in thought. Humans are complicated. I like it. You are complicated too. He looked at her quietly. Maybe, but you make it easier to understand, in your own way. And so, their friendship, filled with curiosity, teasing, and gentle understanding, became something neither of them expected. It was unusual, yes, but it was real. It was the kind of friendship that slowly grew. One shared laugh, one observation, one quiet moment at a time. Little did they know, their friendship was about to be tested in a way neither of them had imagined. A joke, misunderstanding, and a moment of shocking surprise that would change the way they saw each other forever. For now, though, they sat together on the rooftop, sharing the quiet warmth of the evening, learning about each other, and discovering that sometimes friendship comes from the most unexpected places and the most unexpected beings. The next morning, the young man woke up feeling the calm of his usual routine. He brewed his coffee, opened the window to let the soft sunlight in, and listened to the quiet sounds of the city waking up. It was another ordinary day or so, he thought. When he stepped outside, he saw the fox girl waiting for him near the corner of the street. Her ears twitched as she noticed him, and her bushy tail swayed excitedly behind her. She was carrying a small bag, but it looked more like a bundle of curiosity than anything practical. "Good morning," she called cheerfully. "You ready for an adventure?" He smiled weakly. "Morning adventure?" I don't know if I am ready for anything too wild today." "Oh, come on. Life is too short to stay in boring routines," she said, hopping onto the pavement with surprising agility. "Besides, I have a plan. A fun plan. You will like it. I promise." He followed her cautiously as she led him to a small park he had never noticed before. It was tucked between two buildings filled with tall grass, scattered benches, and a small fountain in the center. The sunlight made the water shimmer, and the leaves rustled softly in the breeze. The young man noticed how the fox girl's eyes sparkled as she looked around, examining every detail as if it was a puzzle she needed to solve. "What is the plan?" he asked, trying to sound casual. "You'll see," she said mysteriously, smirking. "Sometimes the best things in life are surprises." He nodded, unsure if that was comforting or worrying. The fox girl crouched suddenly and then jumped lightly onto the fountain's edge. She gestured for him to come closer. Sit next to me." He hesitated. The fountain was cool and wet, but he slowly sat on the edge, careful not to slip. She grinned and sat beside him, her tail brushing his arm lightly. He flinched slightly at the touch, and she noticed immediately. "Relax," she said, giggling. "It is just me. No harm." He laughed nervously. "I am relaxed mostly." The fox girl looked at him with playful eyes. "You are too serious sometimes. Let me help you have some fun." Before he could respond, she suddenly jumped onto his lap. The young man froze completely. His eyes widened, and he could feel his face grow warm. The fox girl's weight was light, but the action itself was shocking. "Hey!" he exclaimed, trying not to panic. What? What are you doing? She sat there comfortably, her tail flicking behind her. I am joking, she said with a mischievous grin. I thought it would be funny. He blinked, speechless. He had expected teasing, playful tricks, even questions. But this was something he had not imagined. His heart raced, and he felt an odd mix of embarrassment, surprise, and confusion. The fox girl's ears twitched as she studied his face. You are red? Why are you red? Humans get red when they are shy or angry? Both. Maybe, he muttered, unable to hide his awkward smile. Interesting, she said, tilting her head. I did not know humans could turn colors. We foxes do not change color like that. Only our tails move. Her eyes suddenly grew wide. She leaned closer, examining him from a strange angle, and then she gasped loudly. Humans have tails, she exclaimed in shock. The young man froze again, his eyes blinking rapidly. What? No, I don't have a tail. But the fox girl was too surprised to believe him immediately. Then why? Why? It moved, she stammered, pointing at him vaguely, her ears twitching in confusion. She seemed genuinely puzzled. Do humans hide tails? Do you? Fold them? No, I don't have a tail. You are mistaken, he said, his voice rising in panic. He could feel his heart beating faster as people in the park started noticing the commotion. The fox girl, however, was fascinated. This is amazing, she whispered. Humans are even stranger than I thought. You are so mysterious. He groaned quietly, wishing he could disappear. He had never been so embarrassed in his life. He looked around, hoping no one was watching. But a few passers-by had noticed the strange scene, a fox girl sitting on a young man, looking shocked. While he waved his arms awkwardly, trying to explain, Why did you do this? He asked quietly, once she calmed down a little. Why? Sit on me like that. She tilted her head, thinking. It was a joke, a small joke. I wanted to see your reaction. It was supposed to be funny. He shook his head. It was funny. For everyone else, maybe, but not for me. She looked genuinely sorry, though her ears twitched nervously. I did not know it would upset you this much. I thought you would laugh. You usually smile when I tease you. I do not always like to be teased like that, he said softly, feeling a mix of frustration and embarrassment. Sometimes, some jokes are too much. She nodded slowly, understanding dawning in her eyes. I see. Humans are fragile in ways I do not always understand. I must learn more. I did not mean to hurt you. I sat there quietly for a few moments, letting the park's peaceful sounds calm their hearts. The young man tried to relax, though the memory of her sudden action still made him flustered. The fox girl's tail swished nervously as if she were trying to apologize in her own way. After a while, she spoke softly. I suppose. Maybe jokes are different for humans. What is funny to me might not be funny to you. I will try to be careful. He looked at her, seeing sincerity in her eyes. Thank you, that means a lot. She smiled a little sheepishly. I do not want to lose our friendship over a silly joke. You are important to me. His heart softened. He had been angry and embarrassed, but her honesty and concern made him realize she did not intend to hurt him. I understand. But maybe next time, give me a warning first. Laughed quietly. Warning. Yes, humans like warnings. I will remember. The rest of the morning passed in a mixture of awkwardness and gentle recovery. They walked slowly through the park, watching the ducks swim and the children play. The fox girl asked questions again, this time more carefully, observing human behavior without causing embarrassment. He answered her patiently, feeling relief that the tension was easing. By noon, they had moved to a small cafe nearby. They sat outside, enjoying drinks, and the fox girl fidgeted with a straw in her cup. I am sorry, she said softly. I did not know sitting on you would be such a surprise. He shook his head. It is okay. I suppose I overreacted. But it was shocking. You must understand that humans value personal space. It is important. She nodded eagerly. Yes, I understand. Humans are different, and I am learning. I will be more careful. I want to understand humans properly, not cause trouble. He smiled faintly. You are learning fast. That is good, you are unusual but interesting. I enjoy your company even when you surprise me. Her ears twitched with delight. I enjoy your company too, even when you get flustered. It is fun, and I learn something new every day. They spent the rest of the afternoon walking. Through the quiet streets, their conversation light and full of curiosity. The fox girl asked about everything, why humans wore certain clothes, why they spoke the way they did, why they laughed at things she found ordinary. The young man answered patiently, and though he still felt slightly embarrassed from the morning's incident, he realized that her curiosity came from a place of genuine interest, not malice. By the time the sun began to set, they returned to his apartment. The fox girl curled up near the window, her tail wrapping around her, watching the last rays of sunlight disappear behind the city buildings. The young man sat nearby, reflecting on the day's events. He realized that even though the joke had been shocking and embarrassing, it had also taught him something important. Friendships, especially unusual ones, were built on patience, understanding, and forgiveness. And sometimes, the most surprising moments could lead to growth for both people. The fox girl looked up at him, eyes sparkling. Tomorrow. I will try a new joke, she said teasingly. He laughed, shaking his head. Maybe, something less shocking this time. She grinned mischievously. We will see. Life is too short to be predictable. And with that, the day ended, leaving both of them with a mixture of embarrassment, laughter, and a deepening friendship that neither had expected. The fox girl's playful spirit and the young man's cautious patience created a bond that was unique, fragile, and strong all at once. Little did they know, the adventures and surprises were only just beginning. The day after the fountain incident, the young man woke up, feeling a strange mix of relief and nervousness. He had survived the fox girl's shocking joke, but he couldn't shake the memory of her sudden exclamation, "Humans have tails." It replayed in his mind like a cartoon, and he shivered slightly every time he thought of it. He made his usual breakfast toast, eggs and coffee, trying to distract himself from the embarrassment. For a while he thought the day would be normal, quiet, and uneventful. But as he stepped outside and walked down the street, he noticed something unusual. People were looking at him strangely. Some whispered to each other, and one child pointed at him, giggling. He frowned. What is going on? He muttered. His heart began to race as he realized that the fox girl might have shared her morning surprise with others, even if unintentionally. Sure enough, as he reached the park, he saw the fox girl waiting for him, ears twitching with excitement. She waved, oblivious to the young man's growing anxiety. Good morning, she called cheerfully. Did you sleep well? He forced a weak smile. Morning. Yes. Fine. How about you? I slept like a fox in a sunbeam, she replied, flicking her tail. Then, with a mischievous glint in her eyes, she added, Did you know some humans are very mysterious? Very strange? He groaned inwardly. I hope you are not going to tell anyone about yesterday. She paused, tilting her head. Tell anyone? Oh. I may have mentioned something small. Just a little curiosity. People are very interested, you know? Your reaction was very memorable. His face grew hot again. Curiosity. Yes. Memorable. Very memorable, he muttered, wishing he could disappear as they walked through the park. He noticed that whispers followed them. Some children pointed and giggled, while a few adults seemed to watch him with quiet fascination. He realized that the fox girl's excitement about human tales had spread faster than he expected. People were talking, and now he felt as if he were part of a strange rumor. The fox girl, noticing his discomfort, tilted her head. You are quiet. Are you thinking? Humans often think too much, he said softly. I am thinking about how to survive being the center of attention. She laughed, a sound that was musical and carefree. Do not worry. Humans are strange, yes, but they forget quickly. Maybe. But the young man knew better. Once people started talking, it was hard to make them stop. And now he had to navigate the awkward aftermath of her joke while keeping his dignity intact. The fox girl, however, seemed oblivious to social norms. She jumped lightly onto a bench and gestured for him to sit beside her. Come sit. Let us talk about yesterday. I must understand humans better. You were. Interesting. He hesitated but sat down anyway. She leaned closer, her bright eyes fixed on his face. Tell me, do humans really hide tails? Do you have a secret tail you fold somewhere? No, he exclaimed, flinching. Humans do not have tails. I am telling you the truth. She stared at him for a moment, then let out a little laugh. Ah, so you are mysterious and clever. You can hide things humans cannot see. Fascinating, he groaned quietly. I am not hiding anything. I just do not want to be teased like that again. She nodded slowly. I see. Humans are delicate. I must respect that. But it is still very funny. And interesting, he sighed, rubbing his temples. Funny, yes. Interesting. Sometimes too much, the fox girl, sensing his frustration, decided to change the topic. Tell me more about humans. Why do you care so much about what others think? You seem so calm, but inside, you feel it all, he thought for a moment. Humans like to fit in. We want to be accepted. Sometimes a joke, even a small one, can feel very big. She nodded thoughtfully. Ah, I understand. I did not realize. In my world, jokes are always harmless. They do not carry such weight. He looked at her, surprised. Your world is different from ours? Oh, yes, she said, waving her hand. Foxes are free, playful, and curious. We do not worry about embarrassment. We learn by doing, by observing, by making mistakes. He smiled faintly. I suppose there is something to be said for that. Freedom. But humans, we have to be careful. Otherwise, life can be difficult. They walked slowly through the park, and the fox girl's curiosity seemed to grow. She asked questions about human habits, emotions, and rules. Sometimes her questions were simple, like why do humans sleep at night? Or why do humans wear shoes? Other times, they were more thoughtful, like why do humans hide sadness? Or why do humans fear being different? He answered patiently, trying to balance honesty with simplicity. Humans have many rules, but we also have feelings. We cannot always show everything. Sometimes we hide things to feel safe, or to protect others. She listened carefully, her tail swishing behind her. I see. Humans are complex. Very complex. And fascinating. But the tension from yesterday's incident still lingered. The young man noticed people glancing at them, whispering and pointing. Some seemed genuinely curious, others amused. He realized that her excitement had unintentionally turned him into a spectacle. Are they laughing at me? He asked quietly, his voice tense. Perhaps she admitted, her ears twitching. But humans forget quickly. And they are curious. You are unique. That makes you interesting. He nodded slowly, accepting her words. It was true. He was different, but maybe that difference could be turned into something positive. By late afternoon, they decided to visit a small cafe near the edge of the park. The fox girl perched on a chair, her tail curling around her, and looked around with fascination. She noticed the other customers, the way they ordered, and the careful movements of the barista. Humans have so many habits, she said, her voice full of wonder. And so many rules. You follow them quietly, without complaint. He smiled faintly. Sometimes following rules is easier than fighting them. And sometimes it is safer. She tilted her head. Ah, safety. Humans are cautious. I see now. That is why your reaction yesterday was so strong. It was about more than a joke. It was about respect. And boundaries. He nodded. Exactly. Boundaries. Very important. As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the cafe, the young man realized something important. The fox girl's curiosity, her jokes, and her energy were overwhelming at times. But they also pushed him to think about things he had never considered. His reactions, his feelings, and even his embarrassment taught her about human life and, in turn, taught him about patience, understanding, and communication. The fox girl, sensing the day was ending, stretched and yawned. Tomorrow, I promise no surprises. Maybe, she winked playfully. He laughed softly. Maybe. But I will believe it when I see it. They left the cafe together, walking slowly through the streets as the city lights began to glow. People continued to glance at them, whispering and pointing, but the young man no longer felt as anxious. He had learned that sometimes curiosity and friendship could outweigh embarrassment by the time they reached his apartment. The fox girl curled up near the window, tail wrapping around her like a warm scarf. He sat nearby, feeling a strange sense of calm. Despite yesterday's chaos, despite the whispers and stares, her friendship had survived and even grown stronger. Humans are strange, she said softly, almost to herself. But I like them, and I like you, he smiled faintly. I like you too, even when you surprise me. And with that, the day ended, leaving both of them with new lessons, new understanding, and the knowledge that their unusual friendship was far from ordinary. Little did they know, the fox girl's curiosity and the human's patience would continue to be tested in ways neither could imagine. Rumors, misunderstandings, and surprises awaited. But for now, they rested in the quiet comfort of a growing bond, argued, funny, and deeply human. The next day began quietly, but the young man felt a nervous tension in his chest. He had hoped that yesterday's incident would fade into nothing more than a small embarrassment, but he knew that the fox girl's curiosity could easily stir things up again. As he prepared his breakfast, he tried to focus on the simple task of making eggs and toast. But his mind kept wandering to the events of the past 2 days. When he opened the door to leave for his morning walk, he saw the fox girl waiting on the steps outside. Her ears twitched as she spotted him, and her tail swayed in excitement. She looked cheerful, as if nothing had happened, but he noticed a small, thoughtful glint in her eyes. "Good morning," she called, bounding lightly down the stairs. "Are you ready for a new day of learning about humans?" He forced a smile. "Morning. Yes. Ready, I suppose." She tilted her head and studied him for a moment. "You seem different today. Worried?" "Just thinking," he said cautiously, "about yesterday. And about how people reacted." She nodded slowly, her ears twitching. "Ah, humans and their rules. You are very sensitive to attention. I see now, that is. Important to know." They walked to the park together, the fox girl chattering about small observations, the way the wind moved the leaves, the birds in the trees, and the little children playing in the sand. Yet, despite her lively words, the young man noticed that her eyes often flicked toward him, as if she were trying to gauge his mood. "Tell me," she said after a while, "stopping near a quiet fountain did yesterday bother you more than you wanted to admit?" He paused. He had not expected such honesty from her, and her question made him stop and think. "Yes," he said finally. "It was embarrassing. Not because of you, but because of how people reacted, and because it was unexpected. I did not know how to handle it." She tilted her head, her expression softening. "I did not mean to upset you. I thought it would be funny, but I see now. It was more than a joke for you." He nodded slowly. "Exactly. It was about more than just the joke. It was about respect and personal space, and about trust. When someone surprises you in that way, it shakes something inside you, even if you like the person." The fox girl's ears drooped slightly, and her tail swished nervously. I understand now. I did not know humans feel this way. I thought humor is universal. I see now. It is not." They sat quietly on a bench for a while, listening to the gentle flow of water from the fountain. The young man felt a strange mix of relief and tension. Relief, because she understood. Tension, because the incident had stirred something unexpected inside Haman, awareness of his own boundaries, feelings and how easily they could be crossed. "I want to understand humans better," she said softly, almost to herself, not to trick them, not to make them uncomfortable. "I want to learn, to respect them." He looked at her, seeing sincerity in her eyes. "That is important, and it means a lot that you care." For a while, they watched the world go by quietly. People passed, some glancing curiously at the unusual duo, but most simply continued their routines. The young man realized that, despite the whispers and glances, the fox girl's curiosity and energy were not harmful. They were part of what made her who she was, playful, observant, and eager to understand life. After a while, the fox girl shifted slightly, her tail brushing his arm lightly. I have a question," she said, looking serious. "Why do humans hide so much? Why do you not show everything you feel?" He thought for a moment, considering how best to explain. Humans sometimes hide feelings to protect themselves, or to protect others. We cannot always show what we feel. Sometimes, showing too much makes people uncomfortable or makes them treat you differently. She nodded thoughtfully. "I see. In my world, we are open. We show what we feel. We do not hide. Maybe that is why I did not understand yesterday. I did not realize hiding is important." He smiled faintly. "Yes, hiding is not always bad. It can be necessary. But it is also exhausting. You must balance honesty with safety." She considered this carefully. "Balance. Yes. I will try to learn that, and I will respect your feelings. I do not want to hurt you again." For a moment, silence settled between them, comfortable yet filled with unspoken thoughts. The young man realized that their friendship was deepening, not through laughter alone, but through understanding, patience, and the willingness to confront uncomfortable truths. Suddenly, the fox girl's ears twitched, and her eyes widened with curiosity. "But tell me the truth. Was yesterday really that bad? Or is it worse because of what others think?" He hesitated. "Both. It was embarrassing, yes. But the whispers, the stares, they made it worse. Humans care about what others think, sometimes more than they care about themselves." She nodded slowly, as if filing away this new piece of knowledge. "I see. Humans are delicate, very delicate. I must remember that. I will be careful," he sighed, feeling a weight lift slightly from his shoulders. "Thank you. That means a lot. I trust you to be careful." She smiled and her tail swished happily. "Good. Trust is important. And I like having your trust." As the day went on, they walked through the park, stopping occasionally to observe small things, a bird pecking at a crumb, a child chasing a butterfly, a dog playing with its owner. Each moment seemed ordinary, yet the young man found a new sense of appreciation in seeing life through the fox girl's curious eyes. "I notice everything." "Oh," she said suddenly, pointing at a leaf fluttering in the breeze. "Even the smallest details matter. You notice things too, but humans often overlook them. Why? Maybe we are too focused on ourselves," he said softly. "Or too busy. Sometimes, noticing small things is a way to escape, to feel calm." She nodded. "I like noticing things, and I like noticing you. Even when you get flustered," he chuckled quietly. "Even when I get flustered." "Yes. That seems to happen a lot around you." The fox girl laughed, a sound that made him smile despite himself. "It is fun, and you learn to, even from mistakes." By evening, they returned to his apartment. The fox girl curled up near the window, tail wrapping around her like a soft blanket. The young man sat nearby, reflecting on the day's events. He realized that the fox girl had not only learned about human boundaries, but she had also helped him understand himself better, his patience, his reactions, and his ability to forgive and explain. What had started as a shocking, embarrassing incident had become a lesson in communication, trust, and understanding, I think. I understand humans a little better now, she said softly. Not just you. But humans in general, they hide things. They protect themselves. And they feel a lot, even when they do not show it. Yes, he said quietly. That is true, and I am glad you understand it. Makes life easier. She tilted her head, eyes sparkling. And I am glad you forgive me. I did not mean to upset you. I only wanted to play, to learn, to explore. But I see now. There is a line, smiled gently. Yes, there is a line. And now, I think we both understand it better. As the night settled in, the young man felt a quiet sense of peace. The fox girl's curiosity, though sometimes overwhelming, had led to growth for both of them. She had learned about respect, patience, and human boundaries. He had learned about honesty, forgiveness, and the importance of explaining feelings clearly. Little did they know, the lessons of this day would prepare them for future challenges, more jokes, misunderstandings, and surprising moments that would test their friendship, patience, and trust. But for now, they rested in the quiet comfort of understanding, each learning from the other in their own unique way. The fox girl yawned softly, her tail curling around her as she drifted off to sleep. The young man watched her for a moment, feeling a warmth in his chest. Despite the awkwardness, the embarrassment, and the chaos, he knew that this unusual friendship was something precious, something worth protecting, something that could survive mistakes, misunderstandings, and even shocking jokes. And in that quiet moment, he realized that growing together, learning from mistakes, sharing honesty, and respecting boundaries was the true magic of friendship. The next morning, the young man woke up feeling lighter than he had in days. The awkwardness of the fox girl's surprise joke, the whispers, and his embarrassment had all faded into memories that no longer felt heavy. The lessons from yesterday about boundaries, trust, and understanding still lingered. But they now brought him a quiet sense of peace. He prepared breakfast as usual, and as he opened his door, he saw the fox girl waiting outside. She was sitting on the steps with her tail curled neatly around her, looking unusually calm. Her ears twitched as she spotted him, and she waved enthusiastically. "Good morning," she called. "Are you ready for a new day of adventure and learning?" He smiled softly. "Morning. Yes. I think I am ready." Her eyes sparkled, and she bounced lightly to her feet. "Good. Today will be fun. I have no surprises planned well, maybe just a tiny one." He laughed, shaking his head. "A tiny surprise. We will see about that." They walked through the park together, enjoying the fresh morning air. The sun shone gently through the trees, and the soft rustling of leaves created a peaceful soundtrack to their steps. For the first time since the fountain incident, the young man felt a sense of normalcy returning. He realized that even with the fox girl's mischievous energy, life could still be calm, and friendship could still feel safe as they reached a quiet spot near the pond. The fox girl stopped and looked at him with a serious expression. "I want to apologize again," she said softly. "For yesterday, I did not realize how much it would affect you. I understand now. Humans need respect and space, and I will remember that." He nodded, appreciating her sincerity. "Thank you. That means a lot. I forgive you. And I trust that you will be careful." "That is all I can ask." She smiled brightly, her ears perking up. "Good. Trust is important, and I value your trust very much." For a while, they walked in silence, enjoying the calm of the morning. The ducks swam lazily in the pond, children played quietly nearby, and the soft hum of the city in the distance created a comforting background. The young man realized that, despite the earlier chaos, the fox girl had learned to respect him. He had learned to communicate his feelings clearly. "Tell me," she said suddenly, tilting her head, "what do humans really enjoy? What makes life happy?" He thought for a moment. "I think humans enjoy small things. A warm meal, a quiet moment, laughter with friends, watching nature. Happiness is often simple, but it feels important. She nodded, her tail flicking thoughtfully. Ah, simple pleasures. I understand. And what about you? He smiled faintly. I enjoy quiet mornings like this one. And I enjoy sharing them with someone I trust. Even if they are unusual or sometimes mischievous. Her eyes sparkled, and she leaned closer. Mischievous. Yes, I am that. But I hope I am also trustworthy. You are, he said firmly, feeling a sense of warmth. I trust you. And I am glad you are here. The fox girl's ears twitched with delight. Good. Then we will continue our adventures. But carefully this time, as they wandered through the park, they encountered other people, the usual joggers, dog walkers, and parents with children. Some glanced curiously at the fox girl, but the young man noticed that the whispers and stares from the past few days had faded. People had grown used to her presence, and now she seemed less like a spectacle and more like an unusual, yet harmless friend. They found a quiet bench under a large oak tree and sat down. The fox girl stretched her arms and yawned. I am learning so much about humans, she said softly. Not just about rules or feelings, but about patience, kindness, and understanding. And I like it. I like learning from you, he smiled, feeling a sense of pride and relief. And I am learning too, about honesty, forgiveness, and how to explain myself clearly. You have taught me a lot as well. She tilted her head thoughtfully. It is strange, isn't it? That a small joke, a moment of surprise, could teach us so much? Yes, he said quietly. It is strange, but good. We grow from moments like these, even awkward or embarrassing ones. For the rest of the morning, they walked slowly through the park, observing small details that others might overlook. The fox girl pointed out interesting patterns in the leaves, the way the sunlight created shadows, and the movements of the birds. He found himself noticing things too, appreciating the beauty in ordinary moments, as they sat near the pond again. She suddenly jumped lightly onto his lapknot, in a shocking way this time, but playfully, as if testing a new kind of joke. The young man froze for a second, but he noticed her careful expression and realized that this time she was being gentle. See? She said with a smile. No shocking surprises. Just a little fun, he laughed quietly, shaking his head. A little fun. Yes, I can handle that. She tilted her head, eyes sparkling. Good. Humans can handle small surprises, with the right trust. And I have learned that. As the day continued, they talked about dreams, hopes, and even fears. The young man shared stories of his childhood, his quiet ambitions, and the small things that brought him joy. The fox girl listened intently, occasionally asking questions and laughing at moments that felt funny or unexpected. She shared her own stories, too, about her world, her playful nature, and the lessons she had learned from humans so far. By evening, they returned to his apartment, tired but happy. The fox girl curled up near the window, her tail wrapped around her, while he prepared a simple dinner. The soft glow of the sunset filled the room, creating a peaceful atmosphere. I am glad, she said softly, that we are friends. Even with mistakes, surprises, and misunderstandings. I feel happy. I feel safe, he smiled gently. I feel the same. Friendship is about understanding, patience, and trust. And I am glad we have that. She yawned, stretching her arms. Tomorrow. Maybe another adventure. But I promise. Carefully this time, he laughed quietly. Carefully.
Yes.
That sounds perfect. As night fell, the young man sat quietly, watching the fox girl sleep peacefully near the window. He reflected on the past days, the shocking joke, the embarrassment, the confusion, and the lessons learned. Each moment, no matter how awkward, had brought them closer, teaching them about trust, respect, and the importance of understanding each other's feelings. He realized that friendship, especially one as unusual as theirs, was a treasure. It was fragile yet strong, playful yet serious, chaotic yet comforting. And it had survived because both of them had been willing to learn, forgive, and grow. The fox girl stirred slightly, curling her tail tighter around her. The young man smiled, feeling a quiet warmth in his chest. Despite the surprises, the laughter, and the occasional embarrassment, he knew that this friendship was something rare and precious, a bond that could withstand misunderstandings, jokes, and even the occasional shock. And so, the story of the young man and the fox girl came to a gentle, heartwarming conclusion. They had faced surprises, embarrassment, and confusion. But through patience, honesty, and trust, they had built a friendship stronger than either could have imagined. The young man leaned back in his chair. Looking out at the city lights twinkling in the distance, he felt grateful for the fox girl's curiosity, her playfulness, and most importantly, her respect. And he knew that whatever adventures awaited them tomorrow, they would face them together with laughter, understanding, and a deep bond that no joke could ever break. The fox girl stirred again, ears twitching softly, and murmured in her sleep, "Humans are interesting." The young man chuckled quietly. "Yes, we are," he said softly, feeling a peaceful happiness he had never known before. And in that quiet room, friendship, trust, and understanding rested gently, ready to face whatever surprises the next day might bring.